Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Now, European diplomacy is moving on multiple fronts at once, with EU foreign ministers gather in Luxembourg to discuss Ukraine, the Middle East, and the South Caucasus. Now, the meeting comes just as NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte is heading to Ankara for talks with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. At the same time, Latvia's President Grigol Julukhidze is in Baku for discussions in Azerbaijan. Now, the markets are also reacting to falling gas prices on reports of a possible Iran-U.S. talk in Pakistan. We now go and get the latest with Grigol Julukhidze, Professor of International Relations, Caucasus University. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Many different threads. I want to just go on the peg that has been breaking as well. So yesterday we heard, actually sources for TVP World, that Orban may well be withdrawing that block against that EU loan, 90 billion. This had to do with the Druzhba pipeline. What do you make of that? Just give us your latest. This will probably be a topic very much discussed today in Brussels.
Well, first of all, I would say that we had quite high expectations about the visions of the newly elected Hungarian coalition. And also we understand quite well that Hungarian political elite and Mr. Magyar has very Hungary-centered political preferences, and maybe there will not be some serious changes in regard to Ukraine. That's a hypothesis that also exists, and that's why it's hard to issue comments in this regard right now.
Yeah, and I think also what will be happening as today, we have all those foreign ministers of the European members gathering in Luxembourg. They're just arriving now. What do you think? I mean, we have the informal of the leaders also in a couple of days, but just right now on the foreign ministers, what do you think their main focus will be on with Ukraine, with the Middle East?
I would say that Ukraine remains the top priority for the European Union. That's quite understandable. But also the issue related to the Strait of Hormuz and the unpredictable actions of Washington in this regard create massive let's say huge waves of uncertainty. And of course, Ukraine remains the top priority. Then comes the Strait of Hormuz. And at the same time, the first signals should be sent to the already mentioned newly elected Hungarian administration that the policy should be changed in this regard, and Ukraine should be supported. And the Hungarian veto that blocked the deepened cooperation between the European Union and Kiev should be restrained and should be taken away. Apart from that, the European Union should send the signals to the world that remains united. And also we have to pay attention to the fact that happened in Bulgaria, because we have a new government. And amid these tensions and upcoming uncertainties, the European Union, first of all, has to send the signals of effectiveness and unity.
Also, let's jump over to Turkey for a moment. We also have at the same time Secretary General Rutte there visiting Ankara. At the same time, this is also a location just a few days ago at a security forum in Antalya. I'm just curious, from your connection as well, expertise to the Caucasus, what do we make of Armenia and Azerbaijan, that peace deal? Where is this moving forward? What's Turkey's role in all this? And generally, what is that strategic connection between the Caucasus of Armenia for Europe?
As for the visit, let me begin with this fact. The visit of Rutte to Turkey is once again the bold demonstration of the fact that the Black Sea Basin has a strategic importance to the alliance, and that's why such meetings play a very important role to avoid the Russian lake scenario in regard to the Black Sea Basin. As for the deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan. That's a historic deal. That's a very important one. It shows the interest, shrinking interest towards the region, but still, this is the exception of the Trump administration towards the South Caucasus. But at the same time, we have to pay attention to the signals that come from Moscow. Officially, they issued the statements related to the acceptance of this historic deal. That's a very positive fact that took place. But in reality, Moscow is trying to damage the trip deal because the Kremlin is directly interested in the maintenance of chaos and unpredictability in this part of the world. But at the same time, we see the open will from President Aliyev and Prime Minister Pashinyan to keep this deal and move forward. But unfortunately, not everything depends on these players. That's the tragedy of the South Caucasus, because if Mr. Aliyev has a very strong support from Turkey and is the most potent player in the region, Pashinyan remains very vulnerable. Yes, the chances that he will win the upcoming parliamentary elections are very high, but at the same time, we have to understand that the level of penetration from Moscow and the leverage that the Kremlin holds over this country are extremely high.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've talked about this in the past, and I think very much with Azerbaijan playing very much two sides, one foot sort of leaning towards Europe, one a little bit still connected with Russia. But at the same time, we have the Latvian president also in Azerbaijan. What do you think that says? Where is Azerbaijan in all this as well? I mean, we've talked a little bit about Armenia already, but are these countries now, you talked about, let's say, uncertainty, but how certain is their strategic connection more to Europe?
Well, this decision is already made by them. But one thing is the taking decision, and another thing is the implementation. Because of the fact that Azerbaijan is the richest and the most powerful country in the region and holds natural resources and, most importantly, support of the big brother, which is Turkey, its ability to shape foreign policy is much more sophisticated and well-defined. Baku has a very clear vision when it comes to its foreign policy, to be structurally and politically connected to Turkey, remain the strongest player in the South Caucasus and increase cooperation with Asian countries, and meanwhile, deepen the cooperation with the European Union, because the crisis related to the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz once again showed the importance of alternative energy corridors. And in this regard, Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, Shah-Deniz pipeline, the Middle Corridor, and the geopolitical initiatives like that have strategic importance, first of all, for the European Union, and at the same time for Baku, which is earning a lot of money owing to this global crisis. And that's why we will see the trend of deepening cooperation, trade, energy cooperation, even political one with the European Union, because Baku remains a very, I would say, stable player, safe one, quite far away from Moscow's influence. And as for Armenia, Armenia's future will be defined in the upcoming elections. But as I have already mentioned, the political elite, at least the ruling one, has made its decision to flee the Russian influence. Yeah, that's very noble, very important, sounds well. But practically speaking, unless Georgia remains in the under the Russian clause on influence, I would figure out the successful integration of Armenia into the European Union.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, looking at both of these countries bordering Iran, that's also very much going to be discussed, I'm sure, today across the board, not just in Europe. But what do you make of the latest there? I mean, we have this ceasefire apparently expiring on Wednesday. Donald Trump said he would likely, I'm quoting here, highly unlikely that he would extend it any further. How successful do you think these talks will be in Islamabad? I mean, at this point, we're not even sure if the Iranians will send anyone.
I would look at these negotiations with the huge skepticism, because first of all, even from the declarations and statements of the White House administration, sometimes it's very difficult to conclude, to understand what they really mean. They say one thing, and then their further actions do not correspond to their prior statements. Yeah, maybe that's the part of their strategy. Unfortunately, I don't have access to their decision-making process and information, how these decisions are made. But one thing is clear, that the United States once again understood that without the global cooperation and the partnership with their strategic partners, it's very difficult to solve such kind of problems. Nevertheless, they have massive amount of resources, military, economic, and even the coalition with Israel did not help. That's why I would say that the expectations should not be high and very optimistic in this regard. We see that even Tehran is not openly interested in signing the agreement that is right now proposed by President Trump. And also, we cannot ignore the fact that a lot of countries and the players are included and put in this geopolitical crisis. The stakes are very high. That's why making some kind of predictions from today's perspective, I would say, would be useless. But once again, I repeat that the most important part of this story is the conclusion that the whole world took from this crisis, that in terms of energy resources and interdependence, we're much more interdependent to each other than we thought before this crisis. And that's why alternative solutions and alternative energy resources should be reassured.
All right, so giving us the latest there from a very broad spectrum, from the Caucasus to Europe and also into the Middle East. Always a pleasure having you with us. Grigol Julukhidze there, Professor of International Relations, Caucasus University. And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.